I don't believe you. It can't be 22 years old.
It is.
Let's not talk about it.
It was released in 2001.
Wow. Okay, brilliant. So I will start recording in 3, 2, and 1. Hello and welcome back to the IVF Daddies podcast. Today I've got two amazing friends of mine on who, like me, have twins. They're slightly behind me. There's a 2, mine a 12. But welcome. We have
Thank
Mike
you. Glad to
and
be
George.
here.
How are
Thank
you?
you so much.
Thank you.
We're good.
We're good. We're hanging in there, I think.
Just got through the holidays. Well, one holiday. So that's one done. One more to go with Christmas. And then we're home free into the new year.
Yeah.
Yay, brilliant. And Monsters Inc. on in the background. I love that.
Apologies.
Yeah.
That to me means you've got your two little people running around, which is amazing. I love that.
Yeah. You may see the top of a head run by at some point.
Or a snack being administered.
After all, we're here to talk about this, right? This is why we do what we do.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about, everyone here knows about me, but tell me about you guys.
I'll let you start.
Wow, no pressure. So, I mean, we met, 14 years ago?
14 years ago.
On
Grindr.
On Grindr, actually. So there is hope. And we our first date, we talked about having kids. And that was like kind of what we connected on right away. Usually people are like very scared to talk about the kid topic at first, but like we kind of dove right into it. Mm-hmm. We connected on that and Christmas. As you can see, it's like Christmasified back here. So we're really big Christmas people. And then we had kids. We've been married for 7 years.
Yeah.
We had kids 3 years ago through IVF, obviously. And we chose to have twin boys. We know much more about the male anatomy than we knew about the female anatomy. And
so we were more confident in having boys first, for sure.
But yeah, what else can we add?
Yeah, we started the IVF journey as a direct result of the beginning of COVID. So we had a 5-year plan. So long story short, we were shipped out to Seattle. My job at the time had shipped me out to Seattle. And whether you know it or not, COVID in the United States started in Seattle. And so everything shut down. And so we were shipped back home to New Jersey. And my mom, unfortunately, fell very ill as a result of COVID. And that did expedite our IVF process. My mom was like, please, I want to have grandchildren. This was super scary. And it was like
so no pressure.
Yeah, it was like a come to Jesus moment. And we knew we wanted to have children anyway, but we were like, okay, we are going to move forward and we're going to have children. So we did that. But we talk about this now. So much of why we're passionate about this world and what we do is because of the experiences that we had. Some positive, some negative. Positive outcomes, somewhat of a bumpy road on the way there is why we advocate now to help other LGBTQIA plus couples through their journeys.
So not to focus on the negative, but what were the bumpies?
So there's unfortunately there's a lot. So first things first was we were passionate about having twins. That's something we knew we always wanted. Mm-hmm. We talked about that, as George said, from the very beginning of our relationship. And I think what we encountered when we were first speaking with agencies and doctors was it was a no. It was a hard no. It was left up to the intended parent's choice. It was just absolutely not. It's not a consideration for our clinic, for our agency. We won't even talk about it.
And we saw our dreams like quickly crumble of like having twins. We thought that we had to have one at a time. So that was pretty crushing at first. But then, I'll let you continue.
So yeah, but then
saying no.
Why were they saying no, you said? So they were basically saying no, at least the clinics were saying no because they had concerns about health reasons, right? For a surrogate, which is completely valid. And we understand that. However, I don't think that they were taking into consideration the whole picture, right? And that's knowing what we both know now, I think that was a little bit frustrating that they weren't even open to, okay, while we understand that the pregnancy is much higher risk at that, they may be risk adverse as a clinic. It certainly felt as though they were concerned about their success rates and not about the intended parents' wishes.
And it wasn't even a no just to us. It was like anyone who would go there, they were like, no, we don't do double embryo transfer. So it wasn't like a personal thing. It was just in general, they just don't do them.
It's just this is not going to happen.
Yeah.
Right.
So
that was the first big bump.
Then how did you end up with twins?
We snuck one in.
No. So we found an agency. We had this huge misconception that everything had to be geographically close. That was one of the first big misconceptions that we had. Living in the Northeast, we were like, everything should be in the Northeast. wrong, right? Like, obviously, that's not the case at all. And so we found an agency that was based out of New Jersey that ended up being not so great.
We won't name them, but it was terrible.
But it was terrible. And so it was highly frustrating because the first surrogate that we were presented was in Section 8 housing, had 3 children, had been presented as a surrogate 6 times before we had come to discover, and
went on 6 different journeys.
Didn't have any successful embryo transfers as a result of all 6 of those journeys, and they just kept putting her back into rotation.
That doesn't sound great. What is Section 8 housing?
Section 8 housing is government subsidized housing.
Okay, fine.
Which is fine. I mean, like, there could be great surrogates that live in Section 8 housing. It's just the environment that this particular person was in was not a great one. And they didn't really do like a social welfare check, like a visit or anything like that.
They didn't do a social worker evaluation. They didn't do a psychological evaluation beforehand. She just sounded angry when we had our match calls.
She'd been through it 6 times. She was at that stage probably not feeling so great about the process. Right?
Yeah.
But so that wasn't so good.
Right. And that was, mind you, after 18 months of waiting.
So we had like wasted 18 months, and like it was just a kind of a mess. And we were almost at the point of like, let's just throw up our hands and like just not do it. But then we found another doctor in Connecticut who was like our fertility doctor, who was really great. Mm-hmm. But we got matched with a new surrogate who we absolutely adore, absolutely love. We still talk to her today. She's fantastic. Her whole family is really great.
Yeah.
You know, like we stay in touch with like her husband, her, everything. And that's when it started to like really turn around, and we're like, okay, like this is what it's supposed to be like. We have a really great relationship with our surrogate. You know, we had a really great relationship with our fertility doctor who we love. And so, yeah, like geographically, like they live in New Mexico. So we live in New Jersey. And so that was scary for us going into that. But honestly, like you really didn't even notice a difference.
No, I think what was great is we did this a lot. Like we did a lot of FaceTiming. We did a lot of video sharing, a lot of photos, a lot of phone calls.
We were there for the appointments.
We attended the appointments.
Virtually.
It was great for us. We visited twice. We went out there and spent time with her and her family, which was really awesome. And so the distance, we learned quickly, wasn't really a factor, mm-hmm. that it can be done, far apart. I think one of the major things that we learned throughout the course of the journey was that no one prepared us for the complexities that come with a twin pregnancy in terms of the additional appointments that are required for ultrasounds, the potential for risk, right? Like, heavy bleeding during, a pregnancy, right? Like we didn't know, we didn't know what to expect. And our surrogate called us and she was like, I'm bleeding a lot. I need to go to the hospital. We were like, what?
And also, like, a big part of that is we just didn't know any other gay dads. We had known no one that went through the process, except for one friend who referred us to our attorney, our surrogacy attorney, who ended up becoming really good friends with too, and was great. But like, we didn't have a community. Like, we didn't know that men having babies existed. We didn't know about Gays with Kids Academy. We didn't know about any of these resources. Nothing. And looking back, we're like, we always say when we see them pop up on like Instagram or social, I wish we knew like about that resource. So we always tell people about.
Yeah, which is a shame you didn't know about my book.
Yeah, or your book.
Well, right. Yeah, exactly.
I mean, it probably wouldn't have helped you with the heavy bleeding during a pregnancy, but it would have helped at least with the steps, right? And I think that's part and parcel of learning. So all of that process led to you to having a pregnancy in New Mexico, right? So you get pregnant, you're having this amazing relationship. What happens?
And so our surrogate, the night of our baby shower, our whole family was gathered at our home. My mother ever so graciously was like, let's take everyone out to dinner. So we go out to dinner and George and I are celebrating. We had way too many dirty martinis.
3 sheets to the wind.
Yeah.
With all of our friends and family. Like there was like a bunch of people staying in our house. So we were like very, gone at that point.
Very inebriated. And we get back home. We proceed to open champagne bottles. 11:30 p.m. Eastern time. And our surrogate's husband calls us and is like, hi, we're at the hospital. She's in labor. And it was sobering.
He was like, I'll give you a call in an hour to let you know if you should get on a plane to come. And so we sobered up instantly, but we also had no baby stuff because our shower was the next day. So we were like, what do we bring? Do we need to bring diapers? Do we need to bring clothes?
Our mothers are in a blind panic. They're running around this house like you wouldn't believe. They're like, oh my God, oh my God.
Unwrapping the gifts that they had gotten us so that they could like send us to the hospital with stuff.
All this with, and so then the surrogate's husband calls us and they were like, hi, she's at 8 centimeters. So what we didn't know is she had been in labor all day when she thought they were just Braxton Hicks false contractions when they were actually real contractions.
And how far along was she?
Only 30 weeks.
30 weeks. So you're a little bit early.
A little, yeah.
A little bit early.
Which was also terrifying because we didn't know what to expect with the NICU. And, I feel like everyone has a different experience in the NICU. But, we had a relatively good experience. When we finally got there, we had a little trouble seeing our kids.
Well, backing up, right? Okay. So backing up. So our children, we missed the birth of our children,
totally
unfortunately, because of the geographic difference, the time difference, right? So there are no flights from the New Jersey or New York area to the middle of nowhere, New Mexico at midnight, right? So we, found out at, what was it, like 6 a.m. our time as we're leaving for the airport that our sons were born. They were born at 3 a.m. Mountain Time, roughly. And so we're leaving the airport. Everyone's emotional. So part of a little bit of a regret is, I guess, for us is that we missed the birth of our children. But because they were so premature, they had to be airlifted to a higher level NICU hospital than she was at. So she was at a level 2 NICU hospital. They needed the support of a level 4 NICU hospital, which was actually in El Paso, Texas. So not only was our birth order for the wrong state because we had a birth order for New Mexico, and now our children are in Texas. So you can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, yes, we missed the birth, but at the same time, like, I don't know, like I thought I was going to be more upset about it, and I'm not. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, they were taken care of. They were there. Honestly, like, I don't know how much of that I would want to see anyway. So I feel a little protected in that sense. And then we got to the NICU.
We get to the hospital in Texas and they didn't want to let us in because in the state of Texas, we didn't have the rights to our children.
They also transferred the boys to that hospital under our surrogate's last name and not our last names. So it looked like we weren't the parents. So we had a fight with the nursing staff, essentially, in the most respectful way.
And so our amazing attorney got on the phone with a judge in Texas, was able to get a birth order naturalized in the state of Texas for us, and we were able to see our children without. We waited for like an hour before we could see them in the NICU before they would let us in.
Yeah, after flying all night.
The inner New Yorker in me was about to break through that plate glass window, but I couldn't. I wanted to actually see our children and not be arrested in Texas. So.
Yeah, probably not a good idea on day one. Not only are you hungover, you're now getting arrested. Probably not great. Yeah. Wow. So how long were they in NICU?
So James was in the NICU for 1 month, almost exactly. And then so we had to fly, bring him back, leave him with my parents. And then we stayed with him for another month. And then 2 months, Anthony was released from the NICU. So we had to fly back and fly him back from El Paso to New Jersey. So we had to take 2 flights with infants, which really was not bad. They slept the entire time. But it was the same day that they had lifted the mask mandate on airplanes in America. So no one was wearing a mask. This was like kind of like at the tail end of the pandemic, but like COVID was still a thing. It is still a thing now. And so that was...
Well, it was nerve-wracking, right? Like it's your first time flying with a newborn. You don't know what this COVID thing is. You don't want to expose your newborn to it, so you're worried about it. But then also there was the stress of the fact that we have one newborn at home in New Jersey, another newborn in a NICU in El Paso, Texas, and we're flying back and forth trying to manage our lives. Thankfully, our jobs were gracious enough that we had great paternity benefits. But, thank God we also had the support of our families as well, which was very helpful.
So did you take it in turns to fly back and forwards, or did you both go?
We always did it together. So George's mother always supported here in New Jersey. And whenever we would leave James here with my mother-in-law, and she would watch James. She was in heaven, so it was
she
fine.
loved him.
Yeah, she was one of those women who were placed on this planet to be a mother, and so like she was wonderful.
Yeah, and also like taking care of a NICU baby is a little bit different than just like a regular infant. Yeah. Like you have to feed them a certain way and like tilt their head and like do this whole thing. And there's a lot that's just different. And so that's like teaching our parents like how to do that because they're not used to having, they didn't have any preemie babies.
Yeah. She was like, we can give rice cereal. And we're like, no. Don't do that.
Yeah. You'll learn a lot. Like, I'm not sure, like maybe you noticed this, but like a lot of things that your parents did with you as a baby is like a giant no-no now, or is like a risk or, a big safety no. And so teaching our parents that was also a challenge, but it's like a learning experience for everybody. So
Yeah.
it was good. But yeah, then we brought the boys home, and I mean, the rest is kind of history.
The rest is history.
They're healthy, knock on wood. Healthy, happy boys.
I mean, that must have been emotionally quite fraught for the two of you and everyone. Who's taking in the part?
Yeah, well, for anyone who's into signs, George is a Libra, I'm a Cancer. So anyone who knows anything, he's very balanced and was always the one who was keeping me emotionally in check and saying, take a deep breath, it's going to be okay. And I was always the one who was like, oh my God, this is horrible. So thankfully, we were a good team in that, where I let the emotions get the better of me, whereas he was always like, it's going to be okay, it's going to be fine.
And that's why we chose to do a lot of these things together, like the traveling and being on the phone calls, going to the appointments. Like, I think any advice for anyone going through this is like, you really have to make sure that you're both in this for the long run, for like the late night calls, the late night bottle feeds, like all of these things. Even if you only have one baby, being there to support your partner will make all the difference. And so we were up every single night, feeding the boys at 3 a.m. together because we had two. But like, I think in a perfect world, like I would still be up, or like, we would take turns or alleviate one another. And so, I think it's really important to support each other and have that conversation.
Or I think in that vein, if you are a single parent, I think that having a strong support system around you, right, it's invaluable. Being a loved one that's near you, hiring support to be around you, because I think so many people have this misconception that they have to do it on their own. They have to be the ones. And it's okay to say like, no, I need support. I need some help.
Yeah.
I need some frustration, whether it's just going outside and grabbing some air, whether it's just going for a drive, going out for dinner. I think that there's this misconception that you're indebted to your child. You need to be there for everything. You need to be there for every moment, that you can't live your own life anymore. And that was not something that we talked about in the beginning. We said that we didn't want to lose ourselves in becoming parents, and we've been pretty committed.
We're not going to be dead when we have kids. Like we actually, I think, go out more, do more things, because like we're so like invested in planning things for just us, because we're here with the boys. We both work from home every single day, 24/7. We're with the kids. And so if we take a Saturday night off for ourselves, we don't feel guilty,
Right.
Which is amazing, because when I remember having my children, I felt the complete opposite. I felt that if I did take time off, so bearing in mind this was 12 years ago, that I was being judged, that people were saying, hang on, you had children just to leave them to go out for dinner. That's not right. There was massive judgment at that time. And I do feel that has changed. I'd love to delve deeper into that. So you guys can schedule date night and go out and do stuff. How does that work?
That's a good question. Do you want to answer it?
I can start.
Yeah, you start.
So basically, it's super helpful to have a plan, as you've said, right? Like we aren't so great at ad hoc, right? Or on the fly plans. A lot of times, a lot of our friends will be like, hey, are you free tonight? And it's like, well, I mean, sure, that in an ideal world, yes, but no, right? So I think number one harkens back to something that we said, which is having that support system, right? So I think it's a matter of George's parents help us out. Having a network of babysitters is extremely important, right? Like we have an arsenal of like 5 people that we can call who assist us with our children. But then also having that date planned out. Like a lot of times, like beforehand, we weren't a planner. Like you can just buy tickets and go to an event and do whatever it is you want. And that has gone out the window. So I think what's been super helpful is all of our friends now in the New York City area know. And so they call us, they text us, and they're like, hey, next month on this date at this time is this event, or we're going to dinner, or there's a circuit party, or there's a big event happening, like come out, get a sitter. And we're able to proactively plan, ask our arsenal of sitters, like, hey, are you available? And then get the childcare that we need so that we can go and have a good time. It's all about planning.
Which is amazing. I mean, just like being able to go out partying and then doing everything you do whilst you're out partying, then coming home. I mean, like coming home at 6 a.m. and the children are up at 7, that's a challenge.
It is, but I don't know where the energy comes from. You're like, you click into a different person when your kids are around. And so like you want to be on and you're there, and the energy comes from like coffee and some magical parenting thing. I don't know from what, but we get right back into it. And like we've had friends visit us and then go to like go out for the night, come back, and they like stay over our house instead of getting a hotel. And we'll be up at like 7 a.m., like making breakfast, pancakes, like, and our friends wake up at like noon and they're like, how are you doing this?
We actually, funny story, we have very good friends from San Francisco who love to visit New York, and they stay with us. And one time we woke them up because the kids were screaming in the backyard at like 11 a.m. and we were outside playing
On the swing set.
And they were like,
what are you doing?
We were like running around chasing them, playing soccer and whatnot. And they were like, how? And we were just like,
and that's the other thing too, is like our friends, all of our friends, there's some people who like going back to the judgment thing, there's also on the gay side a little bit of judgment too, not just like your straight friends and family and like all those folks, but like you quickly identify the friends that are like supportive of you having kids and like want to like meet your kids and like also like understand that you need extra time and understand that like if they come to hang out with you at your house, like there's going to be kids around, like they might step on a dinosaur when they're walking around your house. And so, you know, having those friends is really important too. Of course, we have like our party friends, and like a lot of times they don't ever meet our kids, which is fine. But like there's a gentle balance of introducing your kids to certain friends, and other friends just don't happen to meet them. It's just like you'll start to like.
Fine. That's fine. Yeah. Even friends, like if you think about it, you've got adult friends that don't like adult friends, and you just navigate who's going where and doing what. So that's very cool. I think that coupled with obviously both of you, Mike, you used to work at Equinox, so you're in the gym a lot, you going out a lot and doing all these things. That balance is really important for people to have, because if you don't have it, you can end up with real resentment problems or just not enjoying the whole process, right?
Yeah. And like we promised each other, we're not getting fat. Like there's no way we are getting fat. Like love dad bods, completely support it. But like there's like dad bod, but there's also like chubby, like I just had kids and like I'm going downhill. We were like, we cannot do that. So that's why we hired a trainer. We like got a great trainer. He's holding us accountable. Like if I'm paying for training, like I'm going to do it. And so I think that's really helped us stay on track. Yeah. And also we do everything together. We take basically every shower together. We work out every day together. We get most of our like talking and decision making done in the shower. That's why it happens that way.
All of our family planning and planning just in general happens.
Yeah. So
yeah.
I'm
learning more about the two of you. You've got a Cancer and a Libra, and you do your family planning in the shower. I'm like, wow, there we go. And then have you found a coming back to what you were saying about some friends are great with children, some aren't. Have you created a community around those friends with children?
I think we're starting to a little bit more than before.
Definitely. We have good friends in the city who they're wonderful about, they have this gay dads brunch like quarterly. And it's wonderful, right? They live in Tribeca and they assemble all the gay dads from Connecticut, New Jersey, New York, and we all come together. We take a group picture. There's like 40 of us and maybe like 20 kids. They have this huge apartment in the city. Everyone's running around playing together and it's great. It's a wonderful community. And so we're starting to try to cultivate that for ourselves, right? Like it's wonderful that our friends have it, but we're in the process of cultivating that. I mean, it's very helpful that in the line of work that I do, I'm helping parents on their journeys. And so it's wonderful to meet people. It's wonderful to have a professional connection, but sometimes that becomes a friendship and that's great. And I think that being open to that and saying, hey, you know what, let's create a community to go back to where we started on our journey, where we didn't have any friends, we didn't have a network. I think we're looking to try to change that for people who may not have as many same-sex couple friends or gay friends and whatnot who are in our community. And
whether in like a remote area where there's like no other, like a lot of like gay parents or even just gay people in general. That's why like on Instagram, like if someone reaches out to one of us asking a question, we give them as much information as we possibly can, because that's part of like why Mike is in the line of work that he's in. And just like I'm there for moral support because I've been through it personally too. But the more that we can help other people like demystify this entire process, because we couldn't even Google information. It's like impossible to find any information.
And it's a mishmash. Even when you do find it.
What's true, what's not.
Right. Like there's a lot of misinformation out there and it's confusing, right? A lot of people that we speak with, their heads are rattled by the time they get to one of us and they're not quite sure what to make of anything. And so I think it's nice to be, well, yes, I'm sure we have biases by virtue of the journey that we've been on. Mm-hmm. But I think it's lovely to be a sounding board for these individuals to say like, hey, We hear you. We can provide our opinion, what the information that you're getting. We can tell you about our experience that our friends would have, experiences that I've had with other couples who have gone through this. And it provides a great base. And I think that so many people leave the conversation with us saying like, wow, like I feel so much better. We talk about it all the time. What's insane is that we could be at a circuit party out dancing and someone will come up to us and be like, oh my God, you're the dads from Instagram. And we end up having a conversation about IVF on a dance floor at a circuit party, right? Which is so cool.
It also happens at like a bar or a restaurant. We don't only go to circuit parties.
Right. But it happens all the time. And so I think that it's really cool that our just what we put out in the world is seen that way. And we love it. The fact that we're like the gay dads from New Jersey and like that we love that and that people see that and they would love to hear what we have to say.
Well, I love the fact that you started this conversation saying you knew nobody that had done this. Now you're part of a huge network of gay dads that have brunch together. And not only that, you're advocating and helping other people.
Mm-hmm.
That sense of community that I lived, and I know exactly how you feel, that you are now doing is so fulfilling and so empowering that you just want to do it more and more and more and help those people that don't know to kind of look at that landscape and go, what is my decision tree? What decisions should I be making? And not only that, if I make them, what is the outcome? That entire process, that's amazing. So Mike, we were talking about an event that you're kind of putting together in 2020. Tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah. So I am working on hosting an event in Austin, Texas, where a bunch of third-party providers in the art risk community or art community are coming together to provide guidance for prospective intended parents. And the whole idea behind this event is to make it fun. Make it approachable, make it different, to make it not something that's in a corporate type of conference room with a drop ceiling and intense lighting. And it feels very clinical and non-approachable in nature. And I really wanted to, and George agreed with me on this, like I think that we needed to break the mold on how people approach this journey. I think that they need to understand that from the very beginning of even the planning, it can be fun. And so the perfect example is that we have two amazing drag queens who are on RuPaul's Drag Race who are coming to this event for a drag show. But that's never been done at an event where we're talking about family building. And I think the whole idea is to bring it all together, right? Like drag queens want to be dads or parents as well, right? And so I think that that's amazing. And being inclusive in that way, right? Like it's not just gay men that we're looking to help too. It's anybody of any orientation, of any gender expression that we're looking to help and to have fun along the way, which is amazing, right? Like the venue that we're going to is Roma in Austin, and it's super cool. It's edgy, it's different. And we're, it's going to have different spaces, different rooms, different experiences. And so we can talk about becoming parents. We can talk about IVF and, heavy topics, but I think it becomes lighter and more approachable, and it opens people up to the experience much greater by doing it in that way.
Well, I think by making it more fun, you're able to stop that feeling of being overwhelmed. Excuse me. It's very easy when you're barraged with information on the different steps in the process to be like, your mind blows, and then you're like, now what am I supposed to do? So I think doing that's going to be fantastic. But I think I'm just more excited to find out what Julio's reaction is going to be. He's going to be, because he and Xander watch RuPaul's Drag Race. Oh God, sorry, hold on. Sausages. I'm super excited to see what Julio's reaction is going to be, because Xander, Lulu, and Julio watch RuPaul and Drag Race and love it. Like it's one of their things that they do, and it's just hysterical watching the children, watching drag queens doing their show. But also what I like about it is you're seeing them as people and their persona. You get both sides of the coin. So it's really showing the children that these are normal people with normal thoughts and feelings and that. So when I tell Julio you're doing that with who's coming?
Yeah, I could say. So it's going to be Brooklyn Heights, who is one of the most incredible drag queens in our community. We love her very much. We had the pleasure of meeting her at Market Days in Chicago, and she's lovely. We're good friends with her manager. And so she's a star, obviously, the host of RuPaul's Drag Race Canada, for those who are not familiar. And we're also inviting another Canadian queen, Isis Couture, who won season 2 of Canada's Drag Race. And Brooklyn Heights hand selected her to join us in Austin. They love performing together. They're going to put on a great show. It's going to be both show, meet and greet. And for us, it was super important. Brooklyn and Isis are going to be hanging out with us out of drag, in drag. And so it's going to be amazing, to your exact point, for everyone to get to interact and see that drag queens are real people who are interested in IVF, who are interested in everything that's happening, can be parents. And we really wanted to break the mold with 2 very important people in that world. And I'm excited for that.
Well, I'm very excited too. I think this has been eye-opening. I have a feeling we're going to have a ton of questions come through on our DMs. So you never know. Maybe watch out for episode 2.
Yeah.
So, thank you so much for your time, and we'll talk soon.
Yeah,
thank you
so
much.
Thank you.